Ladies and gentlemen, in today's world, everyone is available. A single phone call, a text message, or just a click away. But the real question is, are we truly valuable or are we just available? Because listen carefully, being available is easy, but being valuable is rare. And in life, people don't remember who was always there. They remember who made a difference when they were there. Think about it. When your phone keeps buzzing with notifications, is it valuable? No, it's just noisy. But when someone gives you the right advice at the right time, when someone stands by you in a moment of crisis, that's valuable. Today, I want to take you on a journey where we will learn how to move from being just present to being truly impactful in the lives of others. When we talk about quality over quantity of presence, it may sound like a simple phrase, but it carries a deep truth about human relationships. Many times in life, we assume that being around someone all the time automatically makes us valuable to them. We think, if I am available 24/7, if I'm always by their side, that must mean I'm valuable. But my friends, that's not always the case. Just being available doesn't guarantee you're making a meaningful difference. What people truly remember is not how often you were there, but how much you mattered when you were there. Let me give you an example. Imagine a person sitting in a hospital room next to a patient. They're there the whole day, scrolling on their phone, watching videos, occasionally looking up and asking, "Are you okay?" Now compare that with another person who comes for just 30 minutes, sits down, holds the patient's hand, listens with full attention, offers encouraging words, and maybe even says a prayer. Tell me, who will the patient remember more? The one who was present for hours but distracted? Or the one who was present for minutes but wholeheartedly? This is the difference between being just available and being valuable. It's not about the number of hours you give. It's about the depth of heart you bring. We sometimes mistake proximity for impact, but proximity without presence is emptiness. You could be sitting next to someone all day and still not connect with them. On the other hand, a single heartfelt conversation can transform someone's life forever. Think about the sun. It doesn't shine on one place for 24 hours. It rises, shines brightly, gives energy, gives life, and then sets. Its presence is limited in hours, but its quality is unmatched. Without the sun, life wouldn't even exist. Similarly, your presence should be like the sun. When you are there, shine so brightly with your attention, your empathy, and your contribution that people feel the warmth of your value. Let's be honest. How many of us have people in our lives who are always available, but when we really need them, their availability feels empty? And how many of us know someone who may not always be there physically, but whenever they do show up, they change the atmosphere, uplift us, guide us, and leave us feeling stronger? We remember them because their presence was valuable. So, the next time you are with someone, whether it's a friend, a colleague, a partner, or even a stranger, don't ask, "How long can I be here?" Ask yourself instead, "What difference can I make while I am here?" Because at the end of the day, people won't count the minutes of your presence. They will cherish the moments of your value. We often measure life in terms of what we get. We look at how much we've received, how much we've earned, how much we've collected. But if you really want to be valuable, the true measure is not how much you took, it's how much you contributed. People don't respect those who are always asking, "What's in it for me?" They respect those who show up with the mindset of, "What can I give here?" How can I make this moment better for someone else? Think of a workplace. There are always two kinds of people. One comes into the office, clocks in, does the bare minimum, complains about how much work they have, and leaves. They are available. They exist in the space. But then there is another person who steps into the same office and says, how can I help the team succeed? How can I make this project smoother? How can I encourage others? That person may not be the loudest or the smartest, but because they contribute, they become valuable. People notice, leaders trust them, colleagues respect them. Even in friendships and relationships, contribution is what keeps bonds alive. If two friends meet and both are just waiting to talk about their own problems, the conversation becomes heavy and tiring. But when one says, let me listen to you, let me share something that might help, they're not just present, they are adding value. And that's the friend you call in the middle of the night, not the one who is only available on weekends when it's convenient. A small story comes to mind. There was a teacher who once asked his students to bring a candle to class. Each student brought one. The teacher lit them all and said, look at these candles. They are burning, giving light, and slowly melting away. Now tell me, what's the value of the candle? Is it in how long it sits on the shelf, or in how much light it gives when it's burning? The class went silent. The lesson was simple: value comes from contribution. A candle is not remembered for being available in the drawer. It's remembered for the light it gave when darkness filled the room. Contribution doesn't always mean money or material things. Sometimes it's as simple as giving your time to listen, sharing your skills to teach, or even offering a smile to lift someone's spirit. We often underestimate how valuable these small contributions are. For someone going through pain, your kind word could be more valuable than any expensive gift. And here's something important: contribution creates value not only in the lives of others, but also in your own. The more you give, the more fulfilled you feel. The paradox of life is this: when you give selflessly, you never actually lose. You gain respect, love, trust, and inner satisfaction that no amount of availability can provide. So instead of asking, was I there? Start asking, what did I bring? Because being available is like filling a chair in the room. Being valuable is like filling the room with energy, ideas, compassion, or solutions. Chairs are replaceable, but someone who makes a difference, that person is unforgettable. There is a big difference between people who walk into a room and make things lighter, and those who walk into the same room and make things heavier. Life is full of challenges already, and everyone is carrying some hidden burden. What people deeply value is not someone who adds to that burden, but someone who helps to ease it. That is why being a problem solver, rather than a problem creator, makes you truly valuable. We've all met people who only see problems. You tell them an idea, and immediately they'll say, that won't work, it's too hard. What if this goes wrong? Their minds are wired to point out obstacles, but rarely to think of solutions. In their presence, hope decreases, energy drains, and after a while, you avoid sharing things with them because you know they'll only leave you feeling heavier than before. Now compare that with someone who listens to your idea and says, yes, there are challenges, but what if we try this? Have you considered this option? Let's see how we can make it work. Notice the difference. The first person leaves you stuck, the second person lifts you forward. The first is available, the second is valuable. Let me share a simple example. Imagine your car breaks down on the road. One friend arrives and says, Oh no, this is terrible. Cars these days are so unreliable. You should have checked it before leaving. This is going to be expensive. Now another friend arrives, looks at the same situation and says, don't worry. Let's push it to the side. Maybe I can call a mechanic I know. I'll wait with you until help comes. Both are available, but only one is valuable. Why? Because one added to the stress while the other reduced it. Life is full of breakdowns, not just of cars, but of emotions, finances, relationships, and health. In those moments, the valuable person is the one who asks, how can I help fix this? Not the one who says, see, I told you this would happen. Being valuable doesn't mean you have to know all the answers. It means you show a willingness to help, a mindset that leans toward solutions rather than blame. Think about great leaders. They are not the ones who point fingers when something goes wrong. They are the ones who step up and say, we have a problem, but let's find a way. In history, in organizations, in families, those who solve problems become irreplaceable. And those who only complain fade into the background. No matter how available they were, there is also a personal reward in becoming a problem solver. When you train yourself to look for solutions, instead of only spotting obstacles, your own life becomes lighter. Because the truth is, problems never go away, they just change shape. If your mind is trained only to see problems, you'll always feel stuck. But if your mind is trained to look for solutions, you'll always feel empowered. So, the next time you're faced with a situation, pause and ask yourself, am I going to make this heavier or lighter? Am I going to add to the problem or help find a solution? People will always gravitate towards those who reduce burdens, not those who increase them. Remember, this availability may bring you into someone's life, but problem solving is what makes you stay in their life as someone they can't afford to lose. There is a reason why people say, listen with your heart, not just with your ears. Because listening is not the same as hearing. Hearing is biological. It happens automatically. But true listening with empathy is a choice. And this choice is what makes a person valuable. Empathy is not about giving perfect answers or offering immediate solutions or throwing in advice the moment someone shares a problem. Empathy is simply the ability to sit with another person's emotions and say without words, I understand, I feel you, you are not alone. Think about it. When was the last time you felt deeply heard? Not when someone nodded while scrolling on their phone. Not when someone interrupted with their own story. But when a person gave you their full presence, their full attention, and actually entered into your feelings. That moment was valuable, wasn't it? You may not even remember everything they said, but you definitely remember how they made you feel. Because words fade, but feelings linger. There's a beautiful truth here. People don't always come to you to be fixed. Often, they come to you simply to be felt. A child runs to the mother crying, not because the mother has a technical solution, but because the child knows she will be held, comforted, and understood. That comfort is empathy. It transforms pain into strength. On the other hand, think of the people who respond without empathy. Someone says, I'm struggling, and the reply is, oh, that's nothing. You should hear my problems. Or worse, don't be weak. Just get over it. Those words don't heal, they wound further. That's why we remember very clearly who invalidated our feelings and who validated them. The first kind makes us never want to open up again. The second kind becomes our safe space forever. Even in leadership, empathy is a powerful tool. A boss who only looks at employees as machines to get tasks done may have people who are available out of duty, but not loyal out of love. But a boss who takes time to understand what his team is going through, who listens with compassion, who asks not just, "What's the update on the project?" but also, "How are you doing today?" That boss becomes valuable beyond measure. People don't leave companies, they leave managers who lack empathy. And they stay, even through challenges, with those who make them feel understood. Empathy doesn't mean agreeing with everything. It doesn't mean you have to feel pity or lower yourself. It simply means entering someone's world for a moment, seeing things through their eyes, and respecting their emotional reality. Sometimes, the most valuable thing you can say is not, "Here's what you should do," but rather, "I hear you. That must be really hard. I'm here for you." In those few words, you give someone the gift of dignity. And the beauty of empathy is that it multiplies. When you give it to others, they learn to give it back. Not just to you, but to others around them. It's like lighting a candle from another candle. The first candle loses nothing, but the second gains light. In the same way, when you share empathy, you don't lose energy, you create a chain of warmth and connection. So, in this world where everyone is shouting to be heard, choose to be the one who listens. In a culture obsessed with giving opinions, be the one who offers understanding. Because one empathetic listener is more valuable than 100 distracted talkers. At the end of the day, people may forget what you said or did, but they will never forget how deeply you made them feel seen, heard, and understood. So many of us are caught in the trap of thinking that the more places we show up, the more valuable we become. We say yes to every invitation, every request, every responsibility, because we don't want to disappoint anyone. We want to be everywhere for everyone all the time. But in doing so, we spread ourselves so thin that our presence loses depth. We become like a candle trying to light 100 rooms at once, flickering weakly, never shining brightly in any. The truth is, being everywhere is not the same as being effective. You can attend every meeting, every gathering, every event, and still leave no impression. Because what makes you valuable is not the number of places you are present, but the impact you make in the few places you truly give your heart to. Think about a drop of ink. If you pour it into the ocean, it disappears instantly. But if you drop it into a glass of water, it transforms the whole glass. That's the power of focus. That's the power of being effective where you are, instead of scattering yourself where you don't belong. We live in a world where availability is glorified. People say, "I'm always online, always reachable, always around." But ask yourself, if you are everywhere, do you really have the energy to be fully present anywhere? The human mind and heart are not designed for endless scattering. They are designed for depth, for intentional focus. That's why the people we remember most are not the ones who attended every event in our life, but the ones who made their presence felt when it truly mattered. Imagine two friends. One is constantly around, always calling, always hanging out, always in your space. But when you face a crisis, their presence feels empty because they don't know what to say, what to do, how to stand by you. The other friend may not be around every day. They may be busy with their own life. But the moment you need them, they show up with sincerity, strength, and genuine care. Which one do you value more? The one who was everywhere, or the one who was effective in the moment that mattered most? Even in professional life, this principle is true. You can attend every meeting in the office, be available for every little task, yet people may not see you as valuable. But if you come into one meeting and bring a fresh idea, a perspective that shifts the whole conversation, suddenly you are remembered. You are valuable not because you were everywhere, but because you were effective where it counted. This is why boundaries are not selfish. They are necessary. When you say no to some things, you are actually saying yes to giving your full self to the things that matter most. A doctor cannot treat 10 patients at once with the same quality. A teacher cannot teach 1,000 students at once with the same care. Value comes from giving concentrated attention, not divided scraps of energy. So ask yourself, am I trying to impress people by being everywhere? Or am I truly serving people by being effective somewhere? Because there is a world of difference. Butter spread too thin loses its taste. A song played too fast loses its melody. And a life scattered in too many places loses its impact. The greatest trees don't grow by moving their roots everywhere. They grow by going deep in one place. In the same way, you don't need to be everywhere to matter. You just need to choose wisely where you plant yourself and then be so effective there that your presence cannot be forgotten. Knowledge is everywhere. We are drowning in it. Every day, billions of words are written, millions of videos are uploaded, countless opinions are shared. We have more information at our fingertips than any generation before us. But let me ask you, does all this knowledge automatically make us valuable? Not necessarily, because knowledge, if it just sits in the mind like unused books on a shelf, doesn't transform anyone. What makes a person truly valuable is not how much knowledge they have, but how much wisdom they share. There is a simple difference between the two. Knowledge is knowing the facts. Wisdom is knowing what to do with those facts. Knowledge is like having seeds in your hand. Wisdom is planting them at the right time, in the right soil, in the right way, so they grow into something meaningful. Anyone can collect seeds, but it takes care, patience, and understanding to make them bloom. Think of a doctor. A medical student spends years studying thick textbooks, memorizing endless terms. That's knowledge. But when a patient comes in with a complicated case, and the doctor calmly diagnoses, prescribes, and comforts, that's wisdom. The textbooks didn't speak to the patient. The doctor's application of the textbooks did. And that is where value lies. Wisdom doesn't always come from formal education. It comes from reflection, from experience, from connecting the dots of life. A person may never have read a single motivational book, but if they have lived through struggles with awareness, they may carry wisdom that no degree can provide. On the other hand, someone may have read every book in the library, yet if they lack humility and perspective, they may still not be valuable to others. This is why we often find ourselves remembering the advice of an elder. Maybe your grandmother or grandfather once said something simple like, "Patience will heal more wounds than anger ever can." At the time, it may have sounded ordinary. But later in life, when you faced a tough moment, those words became like a compass. That's wisdom. It doesn't overwhelm you with data. It penetrates you with truth. The challenge today is that many of us want to sound knowledgeable, but fewer of us want to be wise. We want to show others how much we know, but we rarely pause to ask, how can what I know actually help someone? A wise person speaks less, but when they speak, it's impactful. A knowledgeable person may speak endlessly, but often leaves others confused or uninspired. Imagine sitting in a lecture hall. One speaker gives you 20 definitions, 10 formulas, and 5 complicated charts. You leave with notes but no direction. Another speaker shares one story, one principle, one lesson, and you carry it with you for years. That's the difference. The first was knowledgeable, the second was valuable. And here's another thing: wisdom isn't just about what you say, it's also about how you live. People may forget your advice, but they will never forget the way you embody your values. A wise person is not valuable because they preach loudly, but because they live quietly in a way that inspires others. Their life itself becomes a lesson. So if you truly want to be valuable, don't just collect knowledge like trophies. Convert it into wisdom. Reflect on your experiences. Share insights that uplift, guide, and heal. And remember, wisdom doesn't mean you know everything. It means you know enough to make a difference where it matters. Knowledge fills your head. Wisdom fills hearts. And in the end, it is the heart you touch that makes you unforgettable. One of the greatest measures of value in a person is their ability to give without expecting something in return. We live in a transactional world where almost every action comes with a hidden question: what will I get back? If I invest time, will I get recognition? If I help this person, will they help me later? If I give love, will I receive love in equal measure? But here's the paradox. When your giving is calculated, your value diminishes. When your giving is pure, your value multiplies. Think about the people you admire most in your life. Chances are, they are not the ones who gave you something because they wanted something back. They are the ones who helped you when you couldn't repay, who stood by you when you had nothing to offer, who gave because it was in their nature to give, not because it was in their interest to gain. Those are the people who become irreplaceable. Those are the people you can never forget. There's a simple story of a farmer who had two fields. In one field, he harvested his crops and stored every single grain for himself. In the other field, he allowed the birds to eat freely. He shared with neighbors, and he even gave to travelers passing by. Years later, the first field became barren because the seeds never spread beyond his storehouse. But the second field flourished everywhere because the seeds that were shared grew in countless places. The lesson is simple: when you hold back, you may preserve for a moment, but when you give, you multiply for a lifetime. True giving doesn't mean you have to give money or grand favors. Sometimes, the greatest gifts are small but selfless. Your time, your patience, your presence. Sitting beside a friend in silence when they are grieving, offering a smile to a stranger on a hard day, mentoring someone without charging a fee. These are forms of giving that create deep value. Why? Because they are done without strings attached. When we give with expectation, our giving feels like a business deal. We are keeping score in our minds. I did this much for them. Now they owe me this much in return. But relationships are not balance sheets. Love is not a transaction. Service is not a contract. The beauty of being valuable lies in being able to give without calculating. And ironically, those who give without expectation often receive the most. Because people trust them, love them, and are drawn to them naturally. Look at nature. The sun shines every morning, but does it ever ask the flowers, "Will you bloom for me in return?" The clouds give rain, but do they send an invoice to the farmers? Trees offer shade, fruit, and oxygen, yet they never demand payment. Nature's value comes from its selflessness. That is why life thrives around it. In the same way, when you learn to serve without expecting, you create an atmosphere where people feel safe, nurtured, and inspired. Now, of course, it's not easy. Our ego always whispers, "What about me? Who will take care of me if I keep giving?" But here's the miracle. You don't lose by giving. The act of giving itself enriches you. When you lift someone up, you feel lighter yourself. When you share love, your own heart expands. When you give time to others, you realize how meaningful your own life becomes. The return may not come from the same person, but it always comes back in some form. Life has a way of rewarding the selfless, though not always in the ways we expect. So if you truly want to be valuable, let your service be unconditional. Give, not because others deserve it, but because it is your nature to be generous. Serve, not because you will be repaid, but because you are grateful to be able to serve. The people who are remembered as valuable are not those who demanded returns, but those who gave freely. And in the end, the richest people are not those who have the most, but those who gave the most. Time is the most precious currency we have, yet so often we spend it carelessly, as though it will always refill. The truth is, money can be earned back, opportunities can come again, but every second that passes is gone forever. That is why respecting your own time is one of the greatest ways to increase your value. If you do not respect your time, no one else will. And if you give it away too cheaply, people will treat you cheaply. We often think that being valuable means being endlessly available. We say yes to every call, every meeting, every favor. We stretch ourselves thin because we fear offending others, or we crave approval, or we believe that constant availability is the same as loyalty. But what actually happens? We burn out, our energy is scattered, and the very people we wanted to impress start taking us for granted. When you say yes to everything, your yes loses meaning. But when you learn to say no with grace, your yes becomes precious. Imagine a skilled doctor. If that doctor allowed anyone to walk into their office at any time, without limits, without appointments, they would be overwhelmed, exhausted, and eventually ineffective. But because the doctor values their time, they set boundaries. They see patients according to schedule. And the result, their presence in the consultation room is focused, effective, valuable. Respecting their own time allows them to respect the patient's time as well. Or think about a teacher. If a teacher spent every hour explaining concepts individually to every student without setting boundaries, they would collapse under the pressure. Instead, they create structured hours, focused classes, and designated sessions. The result? Students learn better, and the teacher's energy is preserved. It is not selfish, it is wise. By respecting their time, they maximize their impact. Respecting your time also means being mindful of where you invest it. You may spend hours scrolling endlessly on social media, or you may spend those same hours reading, learning, and growing. The hours are the same. The outcome is worlds apart. A person who values their time chooses to invest it in things that build, not in things that drain. They prioritize growth over gossip, creation over consumption, depth over distraction. And when you live like this, people notice. You become someone they look up to because your time is not scattered, it is purposeful. Another dimension of respecting your time is knowing who you give it to. Some people only want your presence to fill their boredom. They don't value you, they don't uplift you, they only consume your energy. If you constantly give your time to such people, you will find yourself empty. On the other hand, when you give your time to those who value it, who appreciate, who grow with you, who reciprocate with respect, you create bonds that are nourishing, not draining. But here's the key. Respecting your time doesn't mean isolating yourself. It doesn't mean refusing to help or being arrogant with your availability. It means balancing generosity with wisdom. It means saying, yes, I will be there for you, but not at the cost of my own health, purpose, or growth. Because if your well runs dry, how will you give water to others? By preserving your time and energy, you actually become more valuable to those around you. Think of diamonds. What makes them valuable? Their rarity. If they were lying on every street corner, people would step over them. It is their limited availability, combined with their brilliance, that makes them precious. Your time is like that diamond. When you offer it endlessly without boundaries, it loses its shine. But when you protect it, polish it, and give it with intention, people recognize its worth. So the next time you are tempted to say yes to something that drains you, pause and ask, is this the best use of my limited time? Will this make me more valuable or just more available? Because in the end, people don't remember how busy you were. They remember how meaningful you were. And meaningfulness comes only when you respect your time enough to use it wisely.